So yeah, I only ate emergency rations for an entire week. Let me tell you exactly what happened. This all started because I was ordering some emergency food online. I really wanted to try out a few different kinds, and I ordered some, and then I got this like pop-up at the very end that said, hey, do you want some of these emergency rations too for your, emergency kit or whatever? And they were offering me some sort of a deal, and I was like, actually, yes, I'd like to try some of those. So I ordered some emergency rations. Doesn't look very appetizing, does it? Here, check that out. Nothing very exciting about eating that. They got here and I had the thought, can I really survive on just that? So rather than just stick with one type of emergency ration, the one they sent me, I went and I found 4 other really common, popular emergency rations, and I bought some of each. Enough that should last me a full 7 days. And let me walk you through exactly what happened. Day 1 started out completely normal. I started out my day, my normal meals, and I had some emergency rations. And those first ones I tried, they were fine. They tasted okay. I mean, nothing to get excited about. And I ate them throughout the day. And what I found was I wasn't hungry at all. It was enough that it filled me up and it made me feel okay. My energy level throughout the entire day felt basically normal. The only thing was that I just kind of missed normal food. Good flavor was about all that was lacking. And on this day, I ate 1,640 calories. Now that's not as much as I was supposed to eat, but I just wasn't very hungry, and so it was enough. I ended the day thinking to myself, this isn't gonna be so bad. This emergency food stuff, these rations, these are gonna be just fine. Then the next day came. On the second day of this challenge I set for myself, I took my first bite of emergency rations. This was a different one, and I just gotta tell you, the flavor started out fine, but it left this lingering aftertaste that I just couldn't stand. As the day wore on, I found myself feeling a little bit hungry, but not that bad. The hunger mostly came though, because I really had a hard time forcing myself to eat this particular ration. Now, part of the deal for this challenge that I set for myself was that I was gonna go about everything completely normal. This is something that would be different in a real emergency situation, but in this situation, I actually had a meeting in the evening with some friends. We were meeting up to plan out a reunion. And of course, everybody brought snacks. There were cookies, there were chips, dip, delicious salsas and things, presumably delicious. And I forewent. Is that the past forego? I foregoed them. I didn't have any of them. I brought my Yeti cup and it was full of this hot water, full of what? My emergency rations. That's right, because by dinner time, the thought of having to take one more bite of those rations made me want to throw up. Literally, I was gagging the third time. I ate it 4 times throughout the day. The third time, I was gagging the last of it down. So I took a chunk of this particular one, I busted it up, and I put it into boiling hot water, and it took a bit of stirring. It took a while to get it to fully or reasonably fully dissolve, right? And I ended up with this kind of thick, hot drink. And at that point, I was actually able to get it down very slowly. So over the course of the next 2 hours, I just sipped on this drink and it was okay. It was watered down enough that aftertaste was all right with me. So if you're eating emergency rations and you find yourself just unable to stomach them, consider that. Put it into some hot water. Now, one of my concerns going into this was that these were gonna totally just dry me out. That turned out to not really be the case. Almost all of them did a pretty good job of having reasonable moisture content that didn't dry me out too much. Now, a couple of them, ones I had later in the week, I found it was really helpful, kind of like eating saltine crackers, right? You need some water to finish getting them down. If you're gonna have to survive on emergency rations, make sure that you do have an ample supply of water, plenty of emergency water storage on hand, because you are gonna end up wanting to drink more throughout the day. That's gonna do 2 things. One, help with the dryness that you're gonna feel from eating this stuff, but also it's gonna help with the hunger. Because I gotta tell you, on day 3, that's when the hunger really started to set in. You see, because on day 2, let's see, I ate 1,440 calories. Again, I just couldn't get myself to eat more. And so I started to feel more hungry. And by the evening of day 2, my energy level was starting to decline. On day 3, I had yet another one. And this one had the most plain flavor so far. It was a little bit more like eating just a plain cracker, you know, one without any sweet flavor or really much salt, just pretty dang plain. Like a graham cracker if there was no sweetening, like the original graham cracker. Believe it or not, that actually made it more palatable. I preferred eating this one to the other one that had some sweetness to it that just didn't do well for me. I started feeling hunger on and off throughout the day. Obviously, I mean, not that bad, but one other thing that I was noticing was I was rapidly losing weight. You see, all of the food that I had eaten leading up to this challenge was all on its way out of my body, right? But what I was replacing it with was minimal in volume, in mass, and also had a tendency to kind of go right through me. And so I was getting the calories from it, but that was it. So I was feeling more hungry, I was dropping weight really fast, and I was drinking a ton of water. And by day 3, I felt my energy levels start to dip. The rations I did choose for day 3, I ate the full pack of it, 100% of it, but it was still only about 1,100 calories. Most of them recommend more, but this one was a full day's worth of calories. That brings me to day 4, the center, the middle day, the midpoint of this entire challenge. On day 4, I went back to the ration that I ate on the very first day. I used this one partly because it came in a bigger pack, but also to use as sort of a baseline. I figured that maybe throughout this challenge, I would find myself disliking them more and more. And so that would make it a little bit harder for me to fairly compare them to each other. And so I used this one as a baseline. So I ate the same one on day 4 that I ate on day 1. I did like it less than I liked it on day 1. So there you go. I had a harder time eating these as time went on. At this point, I was kind of in a fairly constant state of hunger. I probably could have eaten more, but again, this first one that I had was also sweetened, and it was one that was really kind of starting to bug me the more that I ate it. And so I didn't want to force myself to start throwing up. And so I ate what I had to and what I felt like I could stomach. Yes, I was able to get down 1,640 calories again. I ate the exact same amount that I ate on day 1, but let's just say I really wasn't enjoying it that much. Well, it's day 4 of eating absolutely nothing but emergency rations. Today I'm definitely feeling a bit of an energy drag, which makes sense. I haven't eaten a full 2,000, even 2,000 calories any day for the last 3 days. Yesterday, the rations that I got was 1,145 calories the whole day. I've tried to just completely not change my activity level. So, you know, yesterday morning I still went to jiu-jitsu. I mean, I'm still just doing all the stuff. Going on jogs and going on walks, keeping my activity level where it normally is, and certainly not getting enough calories for that, but that's completely to be expected. Curious to see how this goes throughout the rest of the week. Definitely feeling a lot of temptation to go eat some good food, especially when I sit down to dinner with my family and I'm eating an emergency rations bar. So yeah, we'll see, I guess, how the rest of this week goes. Okay, now at day 5. At this point, I've lost just over 12 pounds. I'm trying yet another new emergency ration. This one, kind of like the one on day 3, had very little flavor, much more like eating a cracker. This one was probably the driest one I'd had yet. It was definitely helpful to have some water, but also probably the most palatable one I'd had yet. By day 5, I'm really not feeling as hungry anymore. Again, it was just kind of a constant drum of hunger, but milder. I think at this point, my body was kind of just getting used to it because I wasn't feeling as hungry, and because even though it was probably the most palatable one I'd had yet, it still wasn't any fun to eat it. So I found myself only eating 1,000 calories that day. That's it, 1,000 calories. And a guy my size, I should be eating much more than that just to maintain weight. So I continued dropping weight. I also have to highlight that between day 4 and 5, the morning of day 5, is fortunate that I didn't have to get up early for anything. I literally slept a full 10 hours straight. I don't do that. A normal night for me is 6 hours, and then 7 or 8 if I don't have to get up for anything. Because of this, I really wanted to understand a little bit the nutrition in these things. Is my energy level this low just because I'm not consuming enough calories? What is at least the macronutrient makeup of these things? So I looked at each one of them closely, and I found that most of them are pretty similar as long as you eat as much as they tell you to eat. If you eat all the servings you're supposed to eat in a day, which at this point I really wasn't doing anymore. Now, for actual long-term nutrition, this is absolutely not something I would recommend. It's certainly not a good diet plan. These are actually quite high in carbs. Anybody that's on keto would just go nuts at these numbers. I mean, most of these things you're eating like 300 grams of carbs in a day. Now, I was eating a little bit under half of the daily recommended value for some of these, and so I was getting like 130 grams of carbs in a day. But most of them also only have 30 to 50 grams of protein, which, I don't know, for a normal person is maybe fairly normal, but I am usually shooting for like 100 to 140, ideally even like 160, just because I'm a big guy and because I'm trying to maintain a fair amount of muscle mass. But even so, for most adult men, 120 grams of protein is like an ideal to shoot for. It's kind of hard to eat that much, but 30 to 50 is on the low side. And only eating half of a daily recommended value now, I'm getting like 15 grams of protein. It's just very, very low. And also most of these have about 100 grams of fat total for a daily recommended value. So the macronutrients are just not really ideal for anything long term. That's really not what these are for. They pack them full of carbs to give you energy to survive a short term period. So then I got wondering, how long are you supposed to be able to survive on these things? What are they sort of intended for? And I Googled like, how long can you survive on emergency rations? And the result that Google picked to answer this question here basically says you can eat comfortably for 2 to 3 days. No wonder by day 4 and 5, I'm just like not feeling very good. And I don't know how I feel about this word comfortably. It's not very comfortable even for 2 or 3 days. The reality is that emergency rations are really created for survival and to prevent malnutrition in real emergency situations. We're talking about there's an earthquake, people are out of their homes, boom, we're gonna get a bunch of emergency rations there. And I get it, maybe even for your bug out bag for like a 72-hour kit, this seems like a good idea. 3 days worth of food just doesn't take up that much space. But here I am on day 5 and I'm thinking to myself, there is no way I am filling my 72-hour kit with these. I am definitely going to be seeking to get my energy from something a little bit more tasty, as well as something a little bit more balanced. And that brings me to day 6. On day 6, I had yet another new one, and that actually was this one. And what I found was I actually didn't quite like the flavor of this one quite as much as the one I had on day 5, but it was close. It was really a close second for me. What I did find is that this one has more than twice as much protein as most of the other ones. And let's see, it's the only one that doesn't have added sugars. So that was pretty cool. By this point, everything started to sort of level out. I continued to have this sort of constant hunger. I was definitely missing food. I wanted to eat something like really, really bad. Mostly, again, because I'm not in an emergency situation and because I have plenty of food around me. In fact, I was cooking dinner for my family, and I gotta tell you, that is painful. I was just watching, with my wife, we were watching this series on National Geographic, Limitless with Chris Hemsworth, and in it, he's doing a 4-day fast, and here he is like cooking this delicious breakfast for his kids, and just, I can feel his pain, because there I was doing something similar. So all I'm eating is this stuff. It's pretty grainy. My kids call it cardboard, because that's kind of what it looks like. The irony is my 3-year-old, he won't eat almost anything except like mac and cheese, and even then he throws half of it away. But he every day was like, I want some of your cardboard, Daddy. And I would give him a chunk of it and he's like, I like cardboard. He would eat the dang emergency rations, but he wouldn't eat anything else. I don't understand kids. On day 6, I ate 800 calories worth of food. Now, I have to say, the pack that this comes in is intended to give you 2,400 calories in a day. I just wasn't up for it. I was so tired of eating stuff that tasted so plain. But I liked the plainness. It was so much more palatable. I know I keep using that word palatable, right? But one of these that I bought literally says on the packaging, designed for maximum palatability across all ages and food tastes. If palatability is the goal, I knew I was in for it before I even started. All right, so day 7 comes along. I'm feeling pretty okay. That hunger level maintains, my energy levels kind of stabilized. At this point, I'm hitting a lot of, I suspect I'm hitting a lot of ketosis simply because as soon as I start moving, and doing something active, I could feel my energy levels really pick up. And so I think my body was just like, here you go, let me give you this. And just using the stores that I keep plenty of on me at all times. I maintained all of my normal activity. I continued jujitsu training. It was a little hard, but I did. And in the end, here's the result. Was I able to survive on only eating emergency rations for an entire week? Yes, because I'm still here and I managed to do it. Was it comfortable? No. Were they palatable? Most of them were reasonably palatable. It ended up being 2 of them that I had to dissolve them in water just to be able to get some more calories at the end of the day. And when all was said and done, at the end of 1 week, I weighed in having lost 5% of my body weight in 1 week, 5%. Now I gotta tell you, healthy weight loss for someone who's actively trying to lose weight is 1% of your body weight per week. So 5% was definitely not something we'd want to shoot for. So would I recommend using these as any sort of long-term survival? No, not even in a 72-hour kit. I do think they have their place, and I will always keep some here on the shelves, but I am going to be filling my 72-hour kit with freeze-dried meals that are going to give me a better balance of nutrition because they have a diverse ingredients, natural ingredients that have just been cooked and then freeze-dried. And with freeze-dried meals, I'm gonna be able to have much more diversity in the things that I eat. And so what am I gonna do? I'm gonna take some of my favorites, I'm gonna pack them in my 72-hour kit. Those things last 20, 25 plus years, whereas this one here says 5 years. So I don't know, that seems like a better option to me. I hope that was enjoyable and maybe somewhat instructive for you. In this video right here, I'm going to share with you the exact food bars that I ate, as well as talk about the pros and cons of each one, comparing and contrasting them so that if you are going to get some emergency bars, you can at least pick the ones that are going to work the best for you. So go check out that video, and hopefully we'll see you there.